Okay, guys, thanks for joining us, Eddie. I know a lot of you will have some questions, so let's just, and you're using the raised hand, which is great, but maybe, Eddie, if you could just start with just a few minutes, just talking about the card on Saturday night.
Sure. Well, I mean, what a division, the lightweight division. It's so frustrating missing these shows. You know, I don't really miss these shows very often, and I've had to watch some great shows, particularly Estrada against Quadras and Chocolatito a couple of weeks ago. And this is a big fight for Devin Haney because, you know, a lot of people just presume that Devin Haney is the next big thing. But if you want to be critical about his resume, he's yet to fight anyone anywhere near the ability of Gamboa. So, you know, I see a lot of people saying, oh, you know, why is he fighting Gamboa? Gamboa's finished. It's like Gamboa just had a very, very good fight with Gervonta Davis. We know that he ruptured his Achilles, but he hung in there till right to the death. And this is by far the toughest fight of Devin Haney's career so far. I mean, in fact, the jump in opposition, and you have to say that Abdullayev was probably the highest caliber opposition Devin Haney has faced so far. Gamboa is on another level to Abdullayev. So I'm expecting a great fight. I appreciate people who think that Haney is a level above Gamboa. They must rate him very, very highly. And we have those beliefs as well. But Gamboa is the kind of fight that I think Devin Haney needs to make a statement. And I think he is under pressure to make a statement in this fight because everybody else is making grand statements. I mean, the victory from Teofimo Lopez was just fantastic against Vasily Lomachenko. I know their team feel, you know, I spoke to Egis Klimas in London last week. They feel that, you know, Lomachenko was, you know, at 60, 70% in that fight, but it doesn't matter. Lopez got the win with a great performance and he comes out and emerges as a star. I think for years and years, the 147-pound division has been the starlight division in boxing. And now for me, we know the heavyweight division is on fire and it's always at a focal point for boxing. But this lightweight division is just fantastic. You know, Teofimo Lopez, stunning knockout from Tank Davis last week. And, you know, I have to give a shout out to him because, you know, I can't remember a fighter I was talking to this week where I said, that's the kind of performance or knockout or moment that you need in order to become a star, right? So Tank Davis is another one up there with Teofimo Lopez, of course. Devin Haney and the winner of Luke Campbell against Ryan Garcia. I mean, they are the gruesome foursome, you know. Well, that's gruesome twosome, isn't it? I have to come up with another one for them. But, you know, that's the four ball, you know, the four ball of the lightweight division, and they must fight everybody. So I think this is a big moment for Devin Haney. I have to give a shout out to him and his dad, Bill. You know, they've been pushing his profile in lockdown. He's become a star, you know, and this is a very important fight for him. You know, for me, I think this leads to the winner of Luke Campbell against Ryan Garcia in early 2021. You know, they're both the zone fighters. It's just a huge, huge fight and a very important fight for Devin Haney on Saturday. Two also important heavyweight fights, of course, Filip Hrgovic, who for me, I think is the next big star of the world heavyweight division. I mean, I think, you know, he's on the verge now of taking the big acid tests. I expect him to have a solid opponent on Saturday night. And also Zhilei Zhang. You know, I think anytime there's an undefeated Chinese heavyweight, I mean, that sounds pretty good to me because that can open up a whole new market for us over there. And of course, the young guns as well, Reshat Mati, Raymond Ford, Arthur Baisanglov. And, you know, I think it's big opportunities for those guys as well. But, you know, good card, but it is about Devin Haney on Saturday. It is about this young buck who people talk about potentially the next Mayweather or whatever they want to say. But he'll want to go out there and dominate Yuriorkis Gamboa, who's been training hard. And I think Gamboa probably sees this opportunity, you know, as a former unified champ to make, you know, one last run at the world title. And if Devin Haney's not the real deal, he'll get beat on Saturday night. Because sometimes you get all these fighters that are hyped up and hyped up and hyped up. And when they take the leap, they're not what you thought they were. For me, that isn't the case with Devin Haney. But I think when you're in with a world-class fighter, you get to really find out the true ability. And I think you'll see Devin Haney shine on Saturday. So over to your virtual hands.
Hi Eddie, how's it going? Donna Corby here from MMA Island. This is a big fight coming up this weekend, but I do want to look forward a week to Katie Taylor, who fights next week. I just spoke to Scott Coker recently, and he says that there is a dialogue there between you and Bellator about doing this Chris Cyborg super fight. However, he also said that a deal breaker is this MMA fight, which I thought was a polite way of saying we're not interested. Could you tell us exactly what's gone on between you and Scott Coker, and how likely it is that at some stage we see Katie Taylor step into the ring with Chris Cyborg?
Well, I think, women's boxing is something that I'm very, very proud of at the moment, and we've still got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go with regards to equality of exposure, equality of purses. But that, I had an interview with The Athletic this week, and they were saying, some women are saying that they're not, getting the same money for a world title fight as a male world title fight. It has nothing to do with male or female. It comes down to the commercial value of each individual fight. Now, the top end of women's boxing is already there. Katie Taylor is earning more than male world champions. We got a world championship triple header of female boxing coming next weekend with Katie Taylor. And for me, I look at those fights, those super fights, and I look at options for Katie Taylor, and Chris Cyborg is really one of them. Clarissa Shields against Savannah Marshall, that's another super fight that can land for early next year. But I think with Katie, that the crossover fight always creates a lot of interest. I can't imagine Katie Taylor in a cage, right? She's a boxing purist. But if Cyborg wanted to entertain a boxing match, and there's not been any negotiations, but I've certainly reached out to Scott Coker and said, I think that's a super fight, and at some point, Chris Cyborg is going to want the biggest financial fight available. So we'll see if Katie Taylor can get past Gutierrez next week, but we'd certainly be open to Taylor versus Cyborg in 2021.
Jeremy?
All right. Hi, Eddie. Thank you for your time. You were talking about how for Devin, this is the type of fight that he needs to kind of gauge where he's at. Will you make a decision on his next opponent based on how he performs in this fight? Meaning, will you match him up depending on what you see from him here?
You know what, Jeremy? Devin is one of those few young fighters who is completely up for fighting absolutely anyone in the division, and has been consistently. I mean, don't forget, when we decided to go down the WBC route, this was purely to chase Vasily Lomachenko. I sat down with Devin and his dad, and I said, look, you've got all these governing bodies. You're up there in all of them. You tell me, what do you want to do? He said, I want to fight Lomachenko. I said, okay, well, if we get this final eliminator, and Lomachenko obviously was fighting Campbell, you will be the mandatory challenger to Lomachenko. That's what we want to do. As soon as he won that fight, we went to the WBC convention and we pitched to the WBC to order that fight immediately. At the same time, Top Rank pitched to the WBC that Vasily Lomachenko be made franchise champion. So unfortunately, we missed the boat. That's another discussion I'm sure might come up on the Zoom call about, world champions. So the great thing about working with Devin is him and Bill truly believe they can beat anyone at 135 pounds. They also understand they're not going to be at 135 pounds forever. He's a very big lightweight. He could move to 140 now, but all of a sudden, all the big fights, or majority of the big fights, sit at 135 pounds. So I think that any victory would lead to him fighting the likes of Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, Vasily Lomachenko. But the way in which he deals with Gamboa at the weekend is really important to how quickly he moves. But to be honest with you, Jeremy, I don't think that we can. Anthony, mute your call, please. Thank you. I don't think that I can do anything about it, because Bill and Devin are a million miles an hour. And Bill obviously knows Devin inside out. He probably is a little bit biased because he's his father. But at the same time, I didn't really believe that when Teofimo Lopez beat Richard Commey that he would really fight Vasily Lomachenko. I heard all the noise and I thought, no, look, this guy could be a star. Surely he's going to have one defense, two defenses. and then go on and fight Vasily Lomachenko. These young guys are made of different stuff. And Devin is cut from exactly the same cloth as Teofimo and Tank. They really believe they can beat everybody, and they have no fear in doing it. So, from my point of view, a devastating performance from Devin on Saturday would give me full confidence to go out and risk it all against, I mean, look, when we look at the ones that are fully proven is Tank and his Teofimo. They have passed the elite level tests. On Saturday, Devin faces his real test. Ryan Garcia, who, by the way, is a great fighter and a fine young man, is yet to take anywhere near that test yet. I believe he has fantastic ability, but his test comes on December 5th against Luke Campbell. So it's great to see, both Devin and Ryan having those tests to prove if the hype is real. I have to take my hat off to Tank and to, although Tank is yet to have a real 135-pound fight, but, he's a quality fighter. He has had big fights, and, Teofimo has passed the test. So now it's over to Devin and Ryan to show us what they can do before they enter the mega fights in 2021.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Eddie.
MREC TV, please.
Emric, get that mute off, my man. Good
Okay.
man.
Eddie, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
So now, Eddie, you said something very interesting with Teofimo Lopez and Tank. They passed their test. Do you think Devin has the power in the same league as those boxers?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that Teofimo Lopez is definitely a puncher. How hard he punches. Obviously, it's a great knockout win over Commey. He had enough power to keep Lomachenko off. And Tank, knocked out a super bantamweight and featherweight, great fighter. Someone that's crept up to super featherweight. The truth is that Leo Santa Cruz is not really a super featherweight. He's definitely not a lightweight. But listen, the fight was made at super featherweight. So Tank's power at lightweight still has to be questioned, until he's knocking out big, proper lightweights. But he's a fantastic fighter. Devin is a very, very sharp puncher. You saw that against Antonio Moran. You saw that against Abdullayev, who's very, very tough. He broke his orbital bone, and I think that sometimes, Devin is so young. And when these fighters learn to sit down on their shots more and more, they start to carry more power. And as their confidence and belief grows in the ring, they will carry more and more power. So, yeah, I think that Devin definitely punches hard enough. I expect this fight to be back and forth. I really feel, speaking to Gamboa's team, that they kind of look at this as we're throwing the kitchen sink at this opportunity. This might be our last one. And they definitely believe that there are question marks. Listen, if I was on Gamboa's team, I would be sort of pushing the question to Gamboa, saying, we just don't know about this kid, We know he's got talent. We know he's got ability, but we just don't know when the going gets tough or when he steps up to the levels, if he is as good as people say he is. So there is that doubt. And Devin has to prove, and he wants to make a real statement. And I think that's the difference between these young guys that I said. Devin, he don't just want to win on Saturday night. He wants to shock all you guys. He wants all you guys to say, wow, this kid's right up there. He wants you to say, I think he can beat Tank. I think he can beat Teofimo, or I think he can hang with those guys. And the only way he can do that is to beat Gamboa better and more convincingly than a Tank did, or put a performance together that you guys go, wow, and that's kind of the pressure more than anything. I'm just thinking, win, defend your world title, and we've got massive fights in 2021. He's thinking, I want to knock this guy out. I want to look sensational. I want all you guys to think that I am as good as Tank and I am as good as Teofimo. And those fights are super fights. What we need you guys and the fans being left with from this fight on DAZN on Saturday is we must see those. We must see those. Give us Haney against Garcia or Campbell. Give us Haney against Tank. You know, because right now it's kind of like after those two performances, it's like give us Lopez and give us Tank, all right? And yeah, Haney and Garcia, they're great as well. Now on Monday, we want to say give us Haney Tank, give us Haney Lopez, give us Haney Garcia or Campbell. So he's looking to make a statement. And in answer to your question, yeah, I do believe he carries the power, and I think he's a very big 135 pounder.
Thank you.
Hans next, please. As I said in the chat, guys, please follow the chat. Thank you. Hans.
Hey Eddie, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
So yeah, before Teofimo fought and beat Lomachenko, obviously, you thought really highly of Lomachenko. If I'm not mistaken, I think you had him number 1 on your pound for pound list. Since the loss, he's obviously dropped a few spots. But let's forget about the loss for 1 second, and let's just say that Haney was able to get his wish and face off against Lomachenko before he fought Lopez. Do you think Haney could have got that win, or would you have favored Lomachenko to win? How would you have seen that playing out?
If Haney boxed Lomachenko?
Yeah, before he fought Lopez.
Look, I rate Lomachenko so highly. I mean, I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great fighter. I gave a great prediction for that Lomachenko Lopez fight where I said I think Lomachenko would win every round. You know, how wrong was I? I woke up on Sunday morning and checked my phone. I couldn't believe what I saw. Look, one thing's for sure. Speaking to Aegis Klimas, he said he wishes they would have pulled out the fight with a shoulder injury, but they were worried they might not get an opportunity. But it doesn't matter. What Lopez done was he came in with the belief, and he walked the walk. And he could have made himself look very silly if he would have lost every round. But he was too good on the night, and he deserves a massive amount of credit. Bill Haney and Devin Haney saw or believed that they were the ones that could beat Vasily Lomachenko. So it's easy for me now to say, yeah, Devin would have done exactly what Teofimo did. But on that night, I believe for sure Devin Haney would have beaten Vasily Lomachenko. Now, if that fight appears for us, obviously we know that. And by the way, when Top Rank made sure that Devin Haney be mandatory to Vasily Lomachenko, it's not Vasily Lomachenko's fault. He would fight anyone. So I have to think that fight is another potential fight for Devin Haney if Devin and Bill were up for that. If we can't get Tank, get Teofimo Lopez, then the Vasily Lomachenko fight is still a very big fight for Devin Haney. But like I said, I believe that that the next fight for Devin Haney after this is the winner of Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell. But in answer to your question, I believe Devin Haney on that night would have beaten Vasily Lomachenko as well.
Gotcha. So I want to follow that up with talking about Gamboa. You mentioned a few times that the way that Haney is gonna pretty much get his star power up, get his name up, is you have to go in there and do a real number on Gamboa. So my question to you is, does it really matter? I ask you that because Gamboa was terrific. Like I've always told people, he used to be Lomachenko before Lomachenko. Just my opinion. He was really, really terrific in his prime. But right now, he's about to be 39 at the end of December. He's already had, all of his losses came via knockout. So it's like a lot of people expect Haney to win, and they expect him to win extremely comfortably, either winning every round or winning by stoppage. So, I guess the question is, does it really do anything for him? Or would you rather, after he gets past Gamboa, I know you want Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell winner, but would you be interested in just putting him in there with a guy like Jorge Linares? I think a win over Linares would be pretty big for him.
That's a good fight. We asked Golden Boy for that fight, and they already had a fight scheduled for Fortuna, which actually fell away. I disagree a little bit with what you're saying. I think, we know the talk about how good Haney is, but when you compare Gamboa to Abdullayev, which was his best victory so far, they are gulfs apart. I think people are tending to forget the fact that, he did well against Gervonta Davis. He ruptured his Achilles in the second round, and he battled away in that fight, and he got stopped, you know, with what in the final round. So I do expect, and I think the pressure is on Devin Haney, because everybody just expects Devin Haney to blow through these guys. That's fine as long as Devin Haney is the superstar that we all perceive him to be. But this is by far the biggest test of his career. And I think when you're fighting a guy as good as Gamboa with as much experience, it sort of says, this is my final chance to win a world title, then I think you're going to get a guy who's coming to win. And I think you're going to get a guy who's much, much better than anything Devin Haney has ever fought. So like I said, if I was in the Gamboa team, this is the kind of thing that I'd be drumming in. We don't know. Might be all hype with this kid. You know, I don't think so. I think he's the best lightweight in the world, potentially. So let's see him pass the next test. But in answer to your question, I don't mind the Linares fight next, actually. I think that's a good fight. But I do think that the way, you know, the way fight fans are, they don't want to wait, do they? And by the way, Devin Haney doesn't want to wait. So when fight fans don't want to wait, Haney doesn't want to wait, Bill doesn't want to wait, the team don't want to wait, let's see it. Let's see if this guy is the real deal. And you imagine you get to, you know, 2021 and you're talking about fights between Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney, Tank against Lopez or Tank against Haney. These are the super fights. And it's not a case of, you know, when we go back to the 147-pound division, where it was like, you know, Mayweather, Pacquiao, you know, guys that are approaching the end of their careers. You know, even now, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Pacquiao, you know, who knows how long, you know, even a fighter like Spence has got left. You know, Crawford is still got time, but he's, you know, they're all guys, these guys are just starting. You know, these guys have got 3, 4, 5 years moving from 135 to 140, mixing it up, fighting all these guys, Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor. You know, there's so many great fights for these guys, and I'm very excited, but I think he's under a lot of pressure, because if he beats Gamboa unconvincingly, you know, the hype bubble bursts a little bit. So he will be doing everything he can to make a major statement on Saturday.
Danny Flexen, please.
Hey Eddie, how you doing?
Hey, Danny.
Good to see you, mate. Just a quick one, and sorry to take you off topic, but I feel like I'm representing the UK a little bit here, and we all want to know what's happening with the Dillian White situation. We saw a couple of people throw their hat in the ring yesterday, Derek Chisora being one, Michael Hunter another. Just what's the latest on that November 21st show?
So just taking a nice picture of you guys, that's fine. So the situation is that the fight that he wants more than anything is Alexander Povetkin, even. You know, I think that obviously he has to rectify that defeat, or try to rectify that defeat. There is one fight, I believe, that he would take, and that's Tyson Fury on December 5th. I mean, I'm not sure we expect that to happen, but at the end of the day, unquestionably, Dillian White would fight Tyson Fury on December the 5th if they wanted to discuss that fight. Chisora came on, you know, it was a little bit of, you know, it's 2.5 weeks now. Realistically, we will postpone that fight with Alexander Povetkin to January the 30th. And, you know, I think any fighter who has trained for 8 weeks and then loses his fight says, I just want to fight. And yesterday, that was very much the opinion, you know, but Dillian White has got a pay-per-view slot, and yeah, Derek Chisora possibly, you know, that fight can work. Michael Hunter even threw his name into the hat for free, apparently, you know, but that's not a pay-per-view fight for November 21st, especially with the clutter coming up. So I said to Dillian, unless we get asked to fight Tyson Fury, which he would do in a heartbeat, you just got to wait till January 30th. I mean, that's the fight for you, and that's what we'll do. And we'll announce that in the next 24 hours, and we'll also keep the Saturday night fight night with Ben against Sebastian Formella headlining that card with the other undercard underneath that. So, you know, we then go on a run of Saturday night fight nights in the UK with Katie Taylor, Conor Benn, and of course Billy Joe Saunders against Martin Murray.
Great stuff, Eddie. Thank you.
It's all right for now.
Marcos? Guys, please follow the chat. Marcos is next.
Yes. I unmuted. Hey, Eddie, how's it going? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Hey, man, it's been a real long time since I've had a chance to chat with you, so it's good to see you. 2 questions for you, Eddie. The first being, since we saw a show last Saturday with a size amount of fans, what is Matchroom's plan in the U.S. to get fans in the arenas? Are we relatively close? Or are you guys still being cautious with that?
I'm definitely being cautious. I mean, the guys have done such a great job. You know, we went to Mexico, obviously, a couple of weeks ago, and obviously it's the situation is a lot worse there. We're keeping these fights as safe as possible for the fighters and their